I'm going to keep this brief because the last speech I had kind of went on a long time to the last wedding, and I kind of got told off and I had to edit it. So we'll keep this brief. So on behalf of myself and Angela, I'd like to welcome everyone and have a really good time and enjoy yourselves. And I have to say the venue is absolutely outstanding. It really is outstanding. We've been all very lucky today with the weather, it has to be said. The weather has been pretty bad at times, but today has been absolutely superb, so somebody's looking down on us. So some people that would all love to have been here, and obviously they can't be here because they've passed away, and all loved ones everywhere had people passed away. So on behalf of Granny Claire, Granda Wilbert, and Granda Desi, they'll all be looking down. They'll be very proud today of you both. Very proud. Okay. I'm starving. And I've been told that my speech has to be short because Ant can't wait to do his speech. Apparently it's going to be something spectacular. And he said, Brian, I want you to hurry your speech up so I can get mine done. As you can see, he's petrified. And I'm sure John, well, I don't call him John, we all call him Roscoe. We all call him Roscoe. And I have to say, it's a big congratulations now. No longer Macaulay, you're now Carly Roscoe, which is hard to get. I know when Carly, I'm not going to say too much about her, embarrass her, so I'm just going to keep it simple, but she went to America, and that's where she met John. And when she went to America, dreams are made, aren't they? Dreams are made. And she went there, and when she went to Disney, she arrived in Disney, and she went to meet her Prince Charming. But unfortunately, she met Goofy on the way. But like every happy ending, one kiss changes everything. And now he's the Prince Charming. And John, myself and Angela welcome you into the family. You're an absolute honour to have as a son-in-law. So congratulations to you both. We all upstanding? Toast.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, it's now my turn to say a few words. So to make sure I'm heard in front of a large crowd, I need a microphone to make myself heard properly. In thinking what to say and how to say it, I got stuck on a way to convey it. A projector's been done, and words alone are no fun, and throwing paper balls is somewhat dated. I did think of performing a rap, but decided that would be crass. So I decided instead to put this speech to bed with a rhyme and a story that would last, well, less than 10 minutes. I knew Brian's speech would be esoterical. His timekeeping when speaking is historical. He told me he had no script, but would keep talking until he was zipped, and the final result would be hysterical. But he kept it simple tonight. Now, one thing we need to get sorted, a confusion of names which can cause strife, is that Roscoe is John, or sometimes Jonathan, which confuses even Carly, who's now his wife. So once and for all, let us sort it, and from tonight, let this be the end. From now on, John must be Roscoe. At least that way known to his friends. So to start early, when John was much younger, he always showed an enterprise hunger. He sold tat from the gate, washed cars until late to stop charitable causes going under. But science was an area of study, and chemistry in particular a goal. He went on to study in Manchester, and in the lab, our Jon was at home. He loved playing with solvents and solutions and mixing things up all the same. He often travelled free to uni until he got caught out playing the train game. But the memorable time was playing Bop It, flying model helicopters around the shop, and the crowning moment with his manager, putting her in a headlock. Now, Jon had high career ambitions. He wanted to reach for the stars. He also liked dressing up in tuxedos and drinking martinis in bars. Now, a little known fact that I can reveal is that he worked to make this come true. With applications to NASA and MI6, his dream might actually come through. But when the reply from these agencies stated he would not fly, drink, or kill, he gave his thoughts to fantasy and applied to Disney for thrills. So when Jon was young, naive, and 21, he didn't know it, but his journey to this day had just begun. To Disney he did travel on a trip that would unravel and bring him lifelong friends and the one. Upon his return back to our land, in a state of confusion and wit's end, he set off for Northern Ireland, he said, to visit a friend. I don't really know what happened, whether it was Guinness or guidance from above, but when he returned, his simple words were, "Dad, I think I'm in love." There followed the years of courting, with frequent trips out to Derry, but this had to be funded with all manner of jobs begged from Tom, Dick, or Harry. From landscape gardening with Steve, and then packing boxes at Next, to working with Kev and with Richie, and digging deep holes, that was the best. The lift shaft was the one they recall, with blood, sweat and tears they did toil. The hole was so deep and so dangerous, they stopped before they hit oil. But to these friends, Jon is deeply indebted, as they helped him and supported him through some difficult times that he will remember with gratitude his whole life through. But the friend that has always stood by him as he courted and visited his wife-to-be was his best friend, young Anthony Freeman, now best man and stag organiser he. First met Roscoe back in Carmel when studying to start their careers. A lifelong friendship developed, which has had its ups and downs and some tears. So as Jon started on his journey to make his mark in the world of business, it was back to chemistry and selling that got him a job out in Widnes. Around this time, not to be outdone by Roscoe, Carly now made moves of her own. In a plan that might eventually bring them together, she made Northampton her new home. But it soon became clear that the two might never be near, because when Roscoe moved down to Milton, Carly moved to the London Hilton. There followed a catch me if you can period, with Roscoe living in Wales and Carly in turn going to Liverpool, working with Hilton in sales. But eventually love conquered all, and fate brought them right back together. With a new house, dog and direction, they pledged to be close forever. The engagement happened last year with their mum and dad both present. That was when Sandra and I first met them, and a new friendship for us was evident. Then followed a year of hard planning, with Carly leading what to choose, from the choice of the bridesmaids' dresses to the groomsmen's suits, ties and shoes. And the memories of a not-so-secret hen do in Paris. Where friends partied till dawn, and a stag weekend in Munich where no one was sober at all. Well, except for me, really. Now that was a revelation to me, somewhat an innocent, cast out to sea. With plenty to drink and lots to do, I spent the day out at Munich Zoo. John, meanwhile, spent a day out in the park, dressed up to the nines as a German tart. Could have been worse. But what I learned during those few days was the friendships that Roscoe has retained. Such wonderful people I had the pleasure to meet, even though Bradley had to have stitches in his feet. Well, it was a stag. Wouldn't have been the same. And for me, it's great to meet them all here today and to share more laughs and more beer, and for us to all join with family, friends and the happy couple in a celebration of good cheer. So that brings an end to my ramblings. My 10 minutes must be nearing a close. So I'd like once again for you to charge your glasses and on this joyous occasion propose a toast to the newly married couple, Jon and Carly, and may their lifetime together be full of wedded happiness.
Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today to celebrate the day with me and my wife. Everybody here means a lot to us. Obviously, it's a quite small venue, so everybody here really means a lot to both of us, and it's amazing to be able to spend the day with such great people. So the first toast is to you fine people. Cheers. I think you'll all agree that the day's been amazing so far and that this room looks incredible. And that's all down to Carly. She's her flick. She spent so much time planning every single detail of the day and has made it as fantastic as it has been. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Carly for that. If it was left to me, it would have been a completely different day. I had visions of fire breathers and magicians, so, you know. I've got a lot more to say about Carly, but I'll leave that towards the end. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Carly's auntie, Daphne. Well, I say auntie, Carly's auntie, it's my auntie now. She's made an amazing wedding cake, which is over in the corner, over there. She made it herself. And it's stunning, and she was really worried about it, but it's awesome. So, a toast to Daphne. I was stood up there today with all my groomsmen and with my best man, Ant. So, I'd just like to say a big thanks to Ant for planning the stag do. You tried your best, and that's all you can do. So. And I'd like to thank all of the fellas who came to the stag do because they really made it an amazing weekend with a lot of laughs. #PrayForBrad. And it was just great to have everybody together, even if Chrissy did spend the majority of the time on a completely different stag do. And I think you all know the film Titanic. Of course you do. We're over here. Brian will tell you later. But in the Titanic, there's obviously a famous scene where Rose asked Jack to paint her like one of her French girls. On my stag do, something similar happened, but it was more Ant took a photograph of me. And I'm pretty sure you'll all have seen that photo by the end of this night. I don't think I've made eye contact with my mum since. And hey, wait, don't be like that. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all the bridesmaids, not only for being a huge help in the planning of the wedding, but just for arranging, next page, arranging just a great weekend in Paris for Carly, the not so secret, and do. But no, it was, looking at the pictures and videos that came back, it seemed like an awesome weekend. And I think that I'm now actually famous in Paris, judging by the amount of photos of random French men snogging the blow-up doll with my face on it. So I can never go there. It's quite funny actually how times change over the years, because the stag do spent the day in a sunny park, whereas the hen do ended up in a strip club. So it's definitely 2018. So cheers to the bridesmaids and the groomsmen. Cheers. Right, heavy salad now. I'd also like to thank my own parents for everything they do for us, not just for the wedding, but just in general. They've always been there for me and the both of us, and in any situation they show unbelievable support and belief in times when we may doubt ourselves. They always have time to talk and offer advice, sometimes a bit too much advice. But we do really appreciate it. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Carly's parents, Angela and Brian, for raising such a strong-willed, brave, funny woman who I'm head over heels in love with. And always for being so welcoming to me right from the beginning. I'm sure they were absolutely sick to death of the 40-minute drive to Belfast Airport every other week to pick me up and drop me off. But without that support, we wouldn't be here today. So a big toast to the parents. And now, Carly, my wife. Weird. For those who don't know, we met working in Disney, where I didn't really enjoy the job, so I left early. I know there's a lot of rumours going around, but come on, guys. Sort yourselves out. And it's actually when Carly returned back to Carrickfergus, where a lot of you are staying today, where she's from, that we realised that there might be something there. So we decided to meet up and see how things went. That first trip across was the most amazing, but the most bizarre trip I've ever had. So on the first time entering the house, I met her mum, her dad, her sister Laura and Jordan. I met Louise and Chrissy. I met Emma and Phil. I then met her granny and her granda, her auntie, her uncle, 4 of the cousins, and some family friends, and I think the neighbour came across as well. At one point, I swear I was surrounded by a semicircle of inquisitive Northern Irish accents, all shouting questions at me in a language I still don't understand today. So I'm like, you know what, mate? Roscoe, let me ask you something. Do you love my daughter? Do you though? No, look at me straight. Do you love her? I hope I can escape that question. But somehow I survived that, and as scary as that sounds, and bizarre as that sounds, it was genuinely a really welcoming atmosphere, and I felt so comfortable around everybody. In fact, I even then got invited a week later to Louise and Chrissy's wedding, without Carly's knowledge, I think. So I can't have done bad. When I got home from that trip, as my dad said, I was in the car with him, and I told him that I'd been to see the girl that I think I'll end up marrying. To which he just accepted and didn't even question it. And I think the guys who are all stood up there with me today, I said the same thing to them on many occasions, and nobody batted an eyelid. So I have so much to say about Carly, but I know that she hates PDA, even though we just had to neck for about 10 minutes with a photographer. And she doesn't like that sort of attention, so I'll leave it here, but I'll leave it on the note that, as the reading said today, a soulmate makes life come to life, and that sums up my feelings for Carly. So please be upstanding and raise a toast to my beautiful wife, Carly Roscoe.
Firstly, I'd just like to say how amazing a day it's already been so far. The actual venue itself is stunning. This place looks amazing. Carly looks lovely. All the bridesmaids look incredible. And Everton won. Go on, boys!
Oh, you've lost the card wheel.
But also, I know a lot of organisation goes into this, and I've seen the stress building over the last couple of months with Roscoe and Carly. And quite a few people around the room as well. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you very much, because you have done incredible, and you should be proud of yourselves for what you've done today. So cheers, Paul. So secondly, I'd just like to thank everybody that came to the stag do in Munich. It was an unbelievable weekend, and we had a lot of really good stories that came out of it. We pretty much lost Chrissy for most of it. We witnessed a middle-aged man get irrationally excited over a tuk-tuk. And we were all there to witness the rise and fall of Spaghetti Brad. But obviously, I think the most lingering memory in everybody's head, and it's the one thing that just can't get out of my eyes every time I close my eyes, seeing far too much of Roscoe's naked body when we came back. It was a brilliant weekend. I just think the only shame about it was I think we were probably 1 pint away from the greatest weekend of our lives. As we mentioned, Roscoe and Carly met in America, and then when Roscoe came back early, he relentlessly pursued her for months until eventually she gave in. Which means that I've known Carly for a long time as well. And I have to say that she is also one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I'm not just saying that because I'm within Wigan distance. No, she's actually a lovely girl, although timekeeping has never really been one of her strong suits. I think it was a minor miracle that she was only half an hour late for today, to be honest. I once went to the races with these two, and Carly turned up halfway through the third race. Most annoying thing was she still won more money than I did. No, but genuinely, she's got a heart of gold. She's one of the most protective and loyal people I've ever met. And I think Roscoe could never have chosen a person better to have pursued all over the country.
Sounds awkward.
Speaking of Roscoe.
You are in distance to me.
So we met each other when we were about 16 in college. Roscoe had a pretty rough day, and off the back of it, we ended up being friends. And it was only about 2.5 years later that I realised his name wasn't actually Roscoe. We've been messmates for a long time now, and a lot of people always come and ask me, like, what's he like? What's Roscoe? What is this guy, this larger-than-life character? And I always struggle to actually describe it, to be able to put to words what he's actually like. I end up just going, oh, it's just Roscoe. You sort of have to meet him to understand it, really. But I've got a couple of stories. So when we were 17, before we grew this beautiful beard. We both looked about 12, which meant that we could never drink in anywhere that was a normal place. And we ended up having to drink in people's houses. We would always get absolutely leathered, and then the night would end exactly the same. Roscoe would get on karaoke and try and sing a Queen song, which is supposed to be his favourite band, and yet he knows not a single word of everything. It would then inevitably end with Roscoe crying somewhere. We found him on steps, bottom of the garden, on driveways. We found him under football goalposts. But every single time it was always the same, always crying. And it didn't really matter how good the night was. There was always a reason, whether it was someone had said something, he just genuinely wasn't happy, or Xavi Alonso was leaving Liverpool, everything. But again, this just became a thing, and everyone was just like, it's just Roscoe, this is the guy he is. Also, when we were young, Roscoe would only ever drink cider until it was my 21st. We went to Stuttgart at a beer festival, and he genuinely weaned himself off cider by going pint at a time, drinking more and more lager and less cider. And Roscoe used to get the worst hangovers you've ever seen in all your life. Even during the night out, there would be explosive diarrhea going on.
Cheers.
It wasn't until after Stuttgart, when he started drinking lager properly, that I realised that he was actually allergic to cider. So I'm not sure if anybody knows, but Roscoe can be quite loud. He's also quite sure of himself. He's genuinely never knocked on a single door of any house I've ever lived in. He just walks straight in. Including my university house, when he came to visit me for a barbecue. It was the first time he'd met any of my university friends. And again, just walked straight into my house, bounding in, shouting to everybody. He was the centre of attention within about 30 seconds. Found a chair that was right next to me, sat down on it, crushed it. Splinters everywhere. And everyone was like, who is this guy who's just walked into our house? I was like, oh, this is Roscoe, me Roscoe. It's also just like Roscoe to be the only person I've ever known that can get sacked from the happiest place on earth. I was going to have a little bit of a talk about why he got sacked. But I'm aware that there's children in the room, which is ironic, because if he'd have known, he wouldn't have got sacked.
That's not as bad as that.
But genuinely, for all his loudness, his snoring, and that ridiculous laugh that he's got, he's also the most caring, the most thoughtful, and the most loving person I've ever met. When he asked me to be best man, I was absolutely terrified. It's one of them things where it's great for about 30 seconds and then fear. So I went online and started Googling what you're supposed to do and structures of best man speeches and things. And one of the things it said was it would be good to sort of give some advice or be able to impose some of my knowledge onto these guys. And I'm probably not the best man to talk to you about these sorts of things, but seeing as though I'm holding a microphone, get comfortable. I think for me, marriage is about finding that person that you're going to go through everything with. Sometimes life can be a bit annoying, and it's finding that person that you spend the whole time with. I'm sure you all know about these books that there's a lot of us in this room are reading. Roscoe's read them. We're working our way through them. And I found a quote which sort of sums it all up quite perfectly. It's by Robin Hobb. And she says, "Happy comes and goes. Loving someone isn't that crazy infatuation that you feel at first. That passes. Well, not passes, but it calms down. And then sometimes, when you least expect it, you get a glimpse of the person, and it all comes back again in a big rush. But even that isn't what you're looking for. What you're looking for is the feeling that no matter what, being with that person is always going to be better than being without that person, good times or bad. That having that person around makes whatever you're going through better. For me, that pretty much sums up the whole of this wedding and what marriage is about.
There's the stairs.
I mentioned before Roscoe used to cry a lot when we get drunk. And it was always a thing. Everyone was used to say, this is what Roscoe does. But it was always a little bit weird. So we always used to talk about what it is. Why does he end up crying at the end of every night? What is it that's going on? What can we do? And what is it that is missing? And I think the truth was, there was nothing that we could do. Because I think all he was really missing was Carly. This had gone on for years, literally from the age of 16 all the way until he went to America. And I promise you, as soon as I saw him after coming back from America, he looked me in the eye and he was a changed man. And I promise you to this day, he's never cried since, but Carly's filled that void. So finally, just before we start eating, I'd just like to say that I've never met a couple better suited than them two. And I wish us all a lifetime of happiness. We just raise our glasses to Mr. and Mrs. Roscoe.